Hi guys, and welcome back to another story time. So this is going to be the story time of how the reverse went out in my car shortly after I had my driver's license. So if you guys watched last week's, I explained how I got my permit and then how I got my license and everything. And the one accident that I did have, which was a deer hitting me. This one here, you could kind of call it an accident, but there was legitimately nothing I could do. So I was driving down the road, we were going bowling. Tim was in the passenger seat and our friends were in the back seat. I was driving down the road and just minding my own business, being careful. And I went up over a hill and there was a giant turtle. He was probably this big around. Probably sat about, I don't even know, like this high up off the ground. He was like a foot tall probably. And he was right up over the top of the hill, and I didn't see him when I was coming up the hill. He was like invisible until you were right there. And at that point, I couldn't stop. And he ended up hitting the underneath of my car. And we stopped, we didn't see anything wrong. Oh my gosh, excuse me. So we didn't see anything wrong, so Tim was like, just go ahead and keep going, and we'll just be careful, I guess. I was like, okay, so I get to the bowling alley and everything, and the car drove fine for that. And then we go in, we go bowling, we do 3 rounds of bowling, and then we get some snacks and stuff. So we're in there for a good few hours, and we come out and Tim starts driving because I was tired and I just wanted to sleep. So he was driving home, and when we pulled in, we like parked where you have to back up to get out of that spot, and he couldn't, the car wouldn't reverse. And we're like, that's really odd. So he checked the oil and there was no oil in the car. Absolutely no oil in the car. And we're like, did someone like steal our oil? Like, we were so confused. There was like, I mean, I'm sure there was oil in the motor, but like where you put oil in and you can take the, I think it's called the dipstick. You can take it out and check your oil levels. It was like bone dry. We're like, what the heck? So we pushed the car out of the parking spot and it drives forward just fine. We drive like not even a quarter of a mile. It's literally like probably 2 football fields away. And we get to a Sheetz. Tim goes in and buys 3 quarts of oil because Walmart was like 6 miles away from the bowling alley, and we're not gonna drive 6 miles with like no oil. So we got the oil, he put it in, and we start going, and he like tests out the reverse and it still doesn't work. And we're like, what the heck? And we get back to our place because we were currently staying with our, we were living with our friends at the time. So it was the 4 of us living in a trailer, and it just out of nowhere, we're like we didn't understand what the heck was going on and why the reverse was not working. So we're like, you know what, we're just gonna chug ourselves along until we get home, and then we'll look at it in the morning, because it was probably 10, 11 o'clock at night and it was dark. So obviously you couldn't really see anything. And so we're sitting there when we get back to the house, and Tim, he did go out and look underneath the car, and he found what was wrong. The turtle, I don't know if it was his shell or if he grabbed a hold of it, but he ripped the oil pan down a little bit, and we were losing oil because of it. That's why the reverse went out. I'm like getting all tongue twisted here. He got a new oil pan, got that fixed, put all new oil in the car, new filter and everything. And we were praying that the reverse would work, and it didn't. it just didn't work anymore. And the only thing we could think of is to replace the transmission, but he didn't want to do that because the car was a rental. Like, I don't know, those buy here, pay here, I think is what they're called. If you guys are local, I don't know if they're all over the states or not, but it was JD Byrider is where we were getting it done at, or where we were getting the car through. And the warranty had just expired or something, and they wouldn't cover and replace the transmission. So it would have been out of pocket. But Tim was like, well, it drives forward, it parks just fine. The only thing it doesn't do is reverse. So we tolerated it. We figured once we got back on our feet a little bit more, because at this point we were pretty poor. Once we got back up on our feet and everything like that, we would get it fixed. And that never happened, honestly. So we drove it for probably a good 4 months with the reverse out. Some people say that that would be impossible, but I promise you it's not. We managed. If we went to a grocery store, we parked somewhere further away from all the cars, like at the very far end of the parking lot. Or if we did manage to find a spot up front where we could pull through, we did that. To where we never had to back out of a parking space. We always parked with, like, if there's 2 rows where they like meet, does this make any sense? I really hope so. Normally most people pull in with the front of their cars this way. If there was no car here, we would just pull straight forward to where our bumper was sitting with like another person's front end. If that makes any sense. I really hope that makes sense to you guys. That's how we would park, and that way we didn't have to worry about reversing or pushing our car out of the parking spot in the middle of daylight. Obviously drive-throughs, you don't need to reverse, which is amazing. Just anywhere that we had to park the car, except when he was at, like when we parked at the house that we were living at, he would park in sideways, and then like most people park like this way, he would park this way in our driveway, kind of at an angle to where he could just loop around to leave. And that was the only thing we could really do. That, or he would loop around and pull in like this way he could just pull straight out. We always managed to figure out a way to park to where we wouldn't need reverse. And then he ended up going to jail. The car got repoed. And yeah. Like I said, it was a pretty low point in our lives. He went to jail for 11 months. I waited for him, and I waited for him, and I waited for him, and here we are. That was back in 2015, so that was 4 years ago, and now we've got our beautiful little girl, and we no longer have that POS car. Life's better. If there's any kind of moral of this story, is be mindful of turtles that are on the road, and be very cautious during the summertime when they're usually out, and life gets better. That's really it for this story time. I really hope this made you guys laugh in some sort of way. It's not as long as I thought it would be, to be honest, but it is, I don't know. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and end it here, and just, if you guys want to be up to date and hear a story time on my sinus issues, stay tuned next week, because that is gonna be the next story time. That is it, and I will see you guys all next week. Bye.